Good morning and welcome to a damp Zandvoort. The sky is broken cloud and blue sky, so that is good news ahead of the second of the two Lamborghini Super Trofeo races here this weekend. One yesterday afternoon, cracking race with victory going to Danny Kroos, local driver, and Sergei Afanasiev, but it was very tight, half a second at the end of the race, ahead of Vito Postiglione and Kiko Galbiati, and Vito will be starting his Imperiale racing car from pole position. And a real jumble, of course. The drivers who started yesterday's race will be the ones going second today in this 50-minute thrash around this fantastic circuit. The Zandvoort circuit that is going to have a Dutch Grand Prix next year. Very exciting indeed. Cool air temperature, 17.5 degrees. Track temperature not yet up at 20, but it was bobbing there or thereabouts yesterday. It's been a coolish weekend, but it has provided some fantastic racing. But right now, all the drivers going out around the circuit will be absolutely clear that it is greasy surface, and there has been a board held up to say a wet race. Drivers need their lights on, but for the fans lining up on the dunes that line the circuit, try and find the circuit in the shot there. It's tucked down low, but it has gradient change. It is the most fabulous piece of old school racing circuit, Zandvoort, just literally a couple of 100 meters in from the North Sea coast on the northern side of the resort of Zandvoort. Brave people find out where the wind is not blowing. In fact, it's not been too bad this weekend. Some high in the grandstands and others just lining the dunes, most notably on the approach to the first corner. And those wanting to watch the start from on top of the pits will have a fantastic view. But as you can see, the flags above them are getting a little bit of a blow on today, so the drivers will be aware of the headwind as they come down the start-finish straight. That's the traditional angle that the wind blows, but the good thing is these days it doesn't tend to blow as much sand onto the circuit as it did back in the 1950s and 60s. A little more protection. I suppose the barriers around the side of the circuit just help that little bit, because always back in the early days on this circuit that opened in 1948, the drivers never knew what to expect from lap to lap in terms of the amount of grip, according to how much sand had blown into their path. Robert Swinger, he had a very good run indeed yesterday in the AM class, and went on to win that in 9th place overall. And just, if you're new to Lamborghini Super Trofeo, we have the top class, we have the Pro-Am class, we have the AM class, and the Lamborghini Cup. So plenty of podium visitors at the end of this event. But right now, the track is drying really quite quickly, but it's still issued as a wet race. I don't suppose anyone will be on wet weather tyres, but certainly there will be risks in the early laps. The track not warm, the track still slippery, but this is the winning car from yesterday. But with Danny Kroos, the Dutch racer, starting yesterday's race, it's the turn of the Russian teammate, Sergei Afanasiev, to kick that off. He's starting 5th on the grid, whereas yesterday, that number 3 from Benardi Motorsport, the blue racer, started from pole. This is the car on pole today, car number 44, second yesterday, just over half a second down. And it will be Vito Postiglione, last year's co-champion with Carol Bash. They're in different teams this year, but Vito will start from pole position before handing over to his fellow Italian, Kiko Galbiati. Bright, even on a dull day. But as I say, broken sky here, so there is some blue sky, but the bright green of Imperiale Racing really does stand out. And alongside on the front row is Target Racing's best placed car, Alberto De Falco, will kick off in the number 9 before handing over to Davide Venditti. But for all the drivers on the grid, as the last handful of cars form up on the 10th row, it's the corner in the background. You can see the banked gravel. It's slightly banked corner tires, and it's effectively a double right-hander, and up in front of them is this big sloping gravel bed. No stranger to collecting cars. Magnetic to some of the drivers, and certainly magnetic to the photographers. It's a fabulous corner, great place to get racing action, because there is action aplenty. If you go in tight, you have to really hold a tight line. It can be the wettest line after it's been raining, but if you risk going around the outside, you can easily be funneled off into the gravel, most notably on the exit of the second part of the corner. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Certainly the drivers behaved beautifully yesterday. This is the car on the outside of the front row, Alberto De Falco, Target Racing, one of the main teams in the championship, and that's running in the Pro-Am class, and took Pro-Am victory in both of the opening races at Silverstone as the season got underway. 6th place yesterday. In fact, their first race of the season was at 2nd place. But let's go just across to the other side of the front row, because Dakota has hot-footed to pole position to speak to Kiko Galbiati.
Kiko, now you have a huge advantage here. You're starting on pole position. You know it's a difficult track to overtake. Do you think you can hold the pole to finish?
Yeah, I hope so. We know that it's a difficult situation. 50% maybe it's dry and 50% is winning, but I think that Vito will do a first in super, and we will see after.
You've got to score some critical points on the line here this weekend. Yesterday, maybe not the result you wanted. Today, you've got to score points.
Yeah, of course. We want to win to increase also the championship, and we will work again for that.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dakota, down there with Kiko Galbiati. But the grey-haired maestro, Vito Pistiglione, very, very emotional driver. I love it when he's interviewed after the race because he just wears his heart on his sleeve. But quite often he's talking about winning races, and maybe he'll step up from second place yesterday to first today. All British lineup in the car, third on the grid. Jack Bartholomew took the start yesterday, so now it's the turn of 19-year-old Stuart Middleton, the driver who stepped up from GT4 racing and really is doing a very, very good job indeed. In fact, this pairing won the opening race of the season at Silverstone. Since then, they've had a couple of third places and a couple of lesser results, 2 seventh places at Misano, but certainly fancy their chances. But picking up, well, in fact, I've just mentioned Jack Bartholomew, and Dakota has whizzed from the car first on the grid to the car in third place. So let's go down to hear what Jack Bartholomew thinks about his chances.
Jack, now yesterday you finished third. Today you're starting third. You're going to be looking for a win today?
Yeah, of course, you're always looking for the win. It's looking good. We had really good pace yesterday. Obviously, it's one of the hardest circuits to overtake on, so to get to third was really good. Pace was mega. We were fast in the wet as well, so we don't really mind what the weather does during this race. Yeah, obviously, always going for the win.
What could you improve from yesterday to today?
It's hard to say because we had a good start yesterday and we had a good pit stop and we were consistent with pace. So really, we're looking for that same sort of performance throughout the whole race.
And tell me what the competition's like here on the Super Trofeo grid. It's really high in Europe.
The grid is always very strong with people like Vito in the car. No one is faster in a Super Trofeo car than him. So, you know, it's really good to be up against the best there is.
Let's see what happens today. Good luck, Jack.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to Jack Bartholomew and to Dakota down on the grid. So the Benaldi Motorsport number 32 will be starting in the hands of his teammate. There he is on board, Stuart Middleton. And a driver I really fancy in the early stages of the race is the driver in the bright metallic blue, number 12, Harold Schlegelmilch, the driver from Latvia, sharing their Artline team Georgia entry with Shota Abkazava, the man who puts it all together from Georgia. But Harold just races year in, year out in Lamborghini. He's very, very quick indeed. And perhaps that will give him an advantage on what, as Kiko Galbiati pointed out, is a half-wet, half-dry track. But let's go down and speak to the driver who won yesterday's race, because Dakota has caught up with Danny Cruz.
Danny, a fantastic race from you guys yesterday. First place. Today you're starting a little bit back in 5th place, I believe. It's going to be a tough race today, but you've got the home crowd and the home support. How do you feel?
Of course it will be difficult. Overtaking is really difficult on this track, but yeah, we'll try to follow them, and then we'll see what we can do in the pit stops. And yeah, of course, the first few laps will be quite difficult with this track.
So yeah, as we said, the track is very difficult. It's a little bit wet on the grid, but it's also dry. Do you think there's a dry line out there this morning? You guys are starting on wet, slicks.
Yeah, of course there's a dry line, but some places are still damp. So yeah, I hope we can profit of some mistakes of the guy in front of us.
Should be interesting. Good luck. Thank you, Danny.
A wise head on young shoulders there, Danny Cruz, and I really think in the opening lap in particular, it's about not making mistakes. You can take a risk and it can all come undone. And then in the second half of the race, when Sergei Afanasiev hands that number 3 Benaldi Motorsport car over to Danny Cruz, look for progress. He was really, really impressive yesterday, as he should be. Home circuit, young driver, striving for great things, but he stepped up very, very well indeed this year. And again, it reiterates the fact that a lot of young drivers are taking to GT racing and championships like the Lamborghini Super Trofeo in the very early stages of their career. They see that's where they want to race, no longer the dream of going for single-seaters. So again, that car that shines even when it's dark. Harold Schlegelmilch will kick off and hand over the Artline team Georgia car to Shota Abkazava. The grid is now being cleared. The personnel walking back down to the pit lane. They're bringing their tyre trolleys, and soon that mighty Lamborghini Urus will take us around the formation lap. We will leads the field around. Lead car, it says on its proud snout. But let's look at the front row. Vito Pistiglione in number 44 alongside Alberto De Falco. So an all-Italian driver lineup on that front row. As we start to move with the Segway up the grid, let's have a look at Stuart Middleton and Harold Schlegelmilch, both drivers with great potential. I really think this front 4, 5, 6 cars is going to be very, very tight through the opening stages of this race, but try not to have any mistakes. Sergei Afanasiev will start 5th, still high on yesterday's victory, and Bartosz Paczeski in an all-Polish lineup with Karol Basz, and Karol is a real flyer. Then Anthony Lambert, Belgian racer, And looking for home glory, Paul Hakema sharing with Matthias Bakker, all Dutch lineup from 8th on the grid. Jake Rattenbury always seems to end up on the podium. And Nicola Goma, such a star in the AM class. They'll be duking it out for honours there. Robert Svinger, he took the AM class victory. And yesterday showing good turn of pace on his seasonal debut. Antonio Vossos, the Greek racer, in that great looking car with the Greek flag on its flanks. Then Thomas Padovani and Jacob Knoll a little bit further down the grid. This is row number 7. Great to see these different liveries as we work our way down the grid. Then Jose Collado, always a front runner in the Lamborghini Cup. And Bernard Saint-Moulin will be sharing with his brother Francois. They're often on the podium as well. Then the brightest car in the field, the day-glowy orangey red car of Superchai Weerabor Wanpong and Gregor Machulski sharing this weekend with Kang Ling. Up to the final row of the grid we go. And the Mikadek Motorsport car of Kurt Wagner, and racing all alone, the Dutch racer Hans Fabry. That's 20 cars on the grid, and as you can see, look at the tarmac there. It's damp. Certain points on the circuit it looks dry. The wind is going to be the driver's friend in terms of drying it out, but there's not a lot of track temperature, and even when it looks fully dry, it may not be. The drivers have to be thoroughly aware of it, so this formation lap has double the importance it normally has. Again, that long shot from the rear of the grid and looking down towards Tarzan, you could see the banking of that first corner. It's gentle, but it's enough to provide the drivers, if you want to go high in the corner, with plenty of support to help you turn through that double right-hander. But if it's wet, of course, there is less grip, and the drivers are going to find out just how much less there is. In fact, look at that shot. The left-hand side of the grid where the sun has hit the circuit, it's much drier. The pit wall side is wet. The pit wall side, of course, is where they need to go if they want to take that inside line to the first corner. Many, many things for these drivers to consider. Yesterday's race was on a fully dry track. They've had wet running, they've had dry running over the course of Friday, Saturday, and now on Sunday, well, they've got a combination of the two as the Urus roars down towards the first corner. And then with the waving of the green flag, Vito Pistiglione moves away from pole position. Alberto De Falco alongside. They'll be looking at the tarmac, trying to feel how much grip through the seat of their pants. But of course, they're going down not at racing speed on this, the formation lap. Time-honoured fashion, trying to get heat in the tyres, a little bit of weaving, but today it's much more of a factor than you'd expect in July at Zandvoort. It's a coolish weekend, but well, you can see Superchai Weerabor Wanpong locking his brakes up. So obviously, as the others in front of him are going slowly. But look at the championship overall. Vito Pistiglione and Kiko Galbiati starting on pole, an 8-point advantage over yesterday's winners. So it shows the gap came down. Karol Bash and Bartosz Paczewski moved back to 3rd place overall. And Stuart Middleton, Jack Bartholomew looking to get up at the very sharp end of the championship. And this is in the overall honours, but of course we then have the Pro-Am honours, the AM honours and the Lamborghini Cup as well. So races within the race. Mikko Eskelinen looking on. His teammate Jake Rattenbury starting around the middle part of the order, starting on the better side of the 5th row, running in the AM Club. So even drivers racing in the lower classes, so to speak, rank in the overall honours. But then we have the individual championships as well, the Pro-Am Cup. But right now, as the field goes around, wave green flag telling the drivers all is okay. But as you can see, there is a dry line on the outside of the circuit. This is the wonderful dip through Schevelach, the key corner on the circuit, high above an enormous gravel trap built up onto the side of the sand dune. This is okay. We know for sure that Sergei Afanasiev will be carrying our onboard camera. He is in the blue number 3 there, behind the metallic blue car of Harold Schlegelmilch. So all eyes on the drivers, all eyes on the surface, because it's a mixed surface. I cannot stress that enough. And perhaps the driver who gets the best view of all of that is Vito Pistiglione. He's running around with nobody interrupting his view. He's hung back enough off the tail of the Lamborghini Urus, the lead car that is taking them around, to have their start. It will peel off. The field will have to get, by the time they get out of Hans Ernstbach, effectively a double chicane behind the paddock, they need to get into 2x2 formation, grid formation as they approach those final 2 corners, the 2 right-handers, Kumo Bocht and then Arie Luyendyk Bocht, that swings them round onto the start-finish straight. Car number 30 went very well yesterday. Anthony Lambert, Belgian racer, will take over. Will lead off today before handing over to his compatriot Neil Legrange. And certainly there was a lot of very, very close racing. But as the driver said on the grid, overtaking is far from easy here. You have to plan it, and you almost have to rely on a mistake from the driver you're putting under pressure. This is the first part of the Hans Ernstbach, a tight right, and a pair of lefts, and then that short, stubby straight. But yeah, the pressure is mounting how will any of these drivers fare over the next 50 minutes. There's a driver change mid-race, bear that in mind. And of course the drivers who started yesterday are the drivers who go second today. They're the ones who have to stand nervously in the pit garage looking at the timing screens. But most critical of all, of course, is the run into and out of the first corner, the mighty Tarzan. One corner to go, then the Urus will peel off, and then the drivers on the front row have the biggest responsibility of all. They have to be looking at the lights on the starting gantry, as will all of those behind. They have to be 2 by 2. They have to see those red lights turn to green, but it won't happen yet. Tend to get the whole field onto the start-finish straight. All 20 cars should be running in pairs and line astern. 44 on pole position, Vito Postiglione. Alberto De Falco maybe fancying his chances in the black car from Target Racing on the outside. They start over the grid, hatching, still holding it back, still holding back. No start yet. Any second. Now the power is down. Looks like a very tidy start from pole position. De Falco tucks in behind, looking for changes further back, and Bartol Paczewski trying to gain ground on the outside. He's got up his nose into 5th place, but Sergei Afanasiev a little bit careful inside. Is Harold Schlegelmilch up into 3rd place or not? Very close indeed. Stuart Middleton holds him off for now. There, 32 holds off onto its 3rd place. Nearly a place change, but very, very clean in behind. So the pole man, Postiglione, leading the field down into the Hugenholzbocht, then immediately up out of that tight double left-hander over the crest, up towards the Rob Slottermacherbocht. As you can see, gradient change here at Zandvoort, then over the brow, and at the brow is the keenest corner on the whole circuit. You can see a twitch there from Bartosz Paczewski now in 5th place. So Sergei Afanasiev was the only driver who lost out among the top 6. He went from 5th back to 6th. There you can see the blue number 3, and the driver who gained but ran wide. Oh, it's a scary place to run wide. That was Sue Shavelak, but luckily not over the curbs, where in fact he went yesterday and then hide through the gravel trap. Dropping that number 8 car down the field to an eventual 4th place. Had just got up into 2nd place, but today held it together, but he's now lost the position he gained early on. Has got lots of pressure from Anthony Lambert there. I would suggest in that case Paul Harkema has also gone up a position. The local racer, yes, he's up to 6th, but leading the race, no question about that. Vito Postiglione in front of Alberto De Falco. They're the front 2 rows in grid order, and the driver who's got it back from 6th to 5th, Sergei Afanasiev, and the green car with the orange stripe there, number 8. That's unfortunately for him, Bartol Paczewski, having just gone a little too deep into the corner at Shavelak. Got it all together but lost ground. But replay of the start, riding with Sergei Afanasiev. To his left, he's got Harold Schlegelmilch trying to get up the inside. Down to the first corner goes Afanasiev. He's on the 4th in the line that was on the left. De Falco nipping inside, nipping outside, eventually going no way around Postiglione. Must hold on to 2nd place. Slight challenge for 3rd place there, but Harold Schlegelmilch in the blue metallic car could not quite get it together to go around the outside of Jack Bartholomew. So it's Postiglione, De Falco, and sorry, of course, Stuart Middleton. Jack Bartholomew we talked to on the grid. It says Stuart Middleton on the timing screens, but of course it's Jack who kicked off today in number 32 for Benaldi Motorsport. The gap between 1st and 2nd on the opening lap, 0.7 of a second. Feels stringing out a little bit right now, but I think it's a real question of drivers just getting a feel for where the grip is, or more to the point, where the grip is not, and then trying to stay off the wetter patches. Down through Masters Bocht, and then you get the tighter right-hand turn at turn Bocht 9, Bocht 10, where it swings them round onto a curving infield. Well, I suppose I can call it a straight, but it is effectively the blast all the way down to the Hans Ernst Bocht. So Stuart Middleton pushing very, very hard indeed in that number 32, running in 3rd place. Top 3 cars covered by, well, 1.2 seconds last time around. I think Middleton's just dropped off a tiny bit in 3rd place, but De Falco, what a little twitch at the tail there. Just as he started, I sent to catch Vito Postiglione, the race leader. De Falco had that little moment, 2 corners from the end of the lap, cost him a bit of momentum. In the background, Harold Schlegelmilch trying his very, very best to hang on. 5th place, yesterday's winner, Sergei Afanasiev. Harold Schlegelmilch, by the way, is running in the Pro-Am class, so he's leading that handsomely. Top car in the Am class, 6th overall. Fantastic run from local Dutch racer Paul Harkema. He's sharing with Matthijs Bacher, fellow Dutchman, through the Hugenholzbocht, closing up all over again. 1.3 seconds now between 1st and 3rd, between Postiglione with De Falco in the middle, back to Middleton. Middleton doing his best to hang on, lights ablaze. In fact, all cars were told to start with their lights ablaze because it was listed a wet race ahead of the start procedure. Another twitch from De Falco, just trying to find the right amount of ground. Into the compression on the exit, up road Little Brown, down another dip to the Masters box. But you can see going through that right-hander, De Falco getting right onto the tail of Postiglione. This is a really, really strong run from De Falco. Third in the Lamborghinis all the way back as 2015. The year before he was the Pro-Am champion, so he has a lot of experience in these Lamborghini races. Such a fabulous car, the Huracan Evo, the Super Trofeo car. Looks good, sounds great, races really well, wonderfully balanced chassis. What I'm sensing on this lap is it looks as though in the background 3 may become 4, because the blue metallic car of Harold Schlegelmilch is starting to close in, and Sergei Afanasiev is picking up the pace as well. In fact, they are both closing in. They're faster than the top 3 cars, so soon the first 3 will become the first 4, and maybe in a few more laps, if Afanasiev can keep on his toes, keep picking off tenths of a second, he will get on the back of the pack. A second of those 2 blue cars, yesterday's winner. There we are, lead 5 cars, all in photo. Lead car in Am, fabulous run there from Paul Harkamer. He's still ahead of Bartosz Paczewski, who had that big twitchy moment and oh so nearly dropped it into the gravel at Szewlach earlier in the race. Right, now riding on board with Sergei Afanasiev, you can see Gerlach Bocht, then down into the drop, the compression here, and the very, very tight, slightly bold double left-hander. Slight slide on the exit there by Stuart Middleton in 3rd place. Drivers all desperate to get the power down onto the circuit and to find some grip, some traction from the circuit. Certainly at the moment it looks as though Middleton is being very, very bold indeed. He's carrying a little bit more speed than De Falco. It's down to 1 second. It was 1.3 down to 1 second, first to third. It is all closing up, and Harold Schlegelmilch was faster than... No, the end of the lap was not so good for him. First part of this lap is getting better and better for the metallic blue car. Yep, Schlegelmilch, I thought we might see progress from him. How good was the lap last time around for Sergei Afanasiev? He was the fastest of the top 5, so that is why 1st to 5th is coming down and down. 3.7 seconds on the start-finish line. Now, I'm just hearing reports. It's always good to have weather spies out there. There is possibly rain falling at the far end of the circuit. I think at this point they are now. It seems as though it might be a little bit of rain on the lens. So yes, these things seen in the pit lane may be required. Not yet, but maybe in the second half of the race. Rain tires, they've all started on slicks. The track was listed as a wet track, but as you can see, it's damp rather than wet, and it's damp on one side. On the racing line, it is dry, but with a little bit of fresh rain. And this is a circuit where you often get rain at one end, not at the other. That could be a real twist in the tail. The gaps continue to come down. Remember, it was 3.7 seconds from 1st to 3rd. Oh, it's actually a worse lap for Sergei Afanasiev. He's gone to 3.8, but Schlegelmilch continues to close in. Just trying to see who's responding. Fastest lap of the race so far. 1 minute 38.926, suitably the race leader, Vito Postiglione, but he's not sitting on a big lead. It's 3/4 of a second. That is all. And there again, you can see Sergei Afanasiev was taking fractions of a second out of Harold Schlegelmilch as he chased after 4th place, but Afanasiev now continues the chase, but actually, to me, has actually slightly fallen away. We'll see the split times, but what you can see through the windscreen as the Russian racer presses on, there is Szewlach, is the rises, the falls, the dips, the crests, and the constant turning of this circuit. It's not really a track that has much of straight line racing. It really, really makes the drivers work. And unfortunately, we have a tumbler. We have 2 tumblers. So this may be, well, that's Paul Harkamer going around. Is that Alberto De Falco in the background? So on the exit of Szewlach into the next corner, Masters box, had that little report that rain might be falling, and that could have been the tiny little bit of difference, the loss of grip. So number 9, Alberto De Falco, who's 3/4 of a second down on race leader Vito Postiglione. He has thrown it off the track, and perhaps in support, Paul Harkamer, reacting to what he saw, the spinning car up ahead. He came off the power possibly just a little bit, found the tail going round. He too has had a spin, and I'm not sure this is a car that wants to turn anywhere in particular. Is there any damage to the steering? Can't see it from there, but certainly Alberto De Falco looks as though he's got the body language of bringing a car into retire. I think he's got a puncture as well. The right-hand side of the car is oh, well, there we have, left rear corner. We can see rim rather than tyre. That is not a good thing. So that Pirelli has been worked too hard, or more to the point, probably picked up a puncture. Maybe it picked up a puncture, then we went off, but my best guess is that little sprinkle of rain at the far end of the circuit led to loss of grip, and the puncture came when he went into the gravel trap. So Harold Schlegelmilch there, number 12, moves up into 3rd place overall, leading the Pro-Am class, but still in front of the race by 1.4 seconds. He's doubled his advantage. Vito Postiglione ahead of this driver, Stuart Middleton in the number 32 from Benalbi Motorsport. Through the corner where perhaps this sequence of events started, down through Shavelak, the high view, but it was in the next corner. You can see the damp patch on the outside in front of the gravel bed. That is where this car of Alberto De Falco ended up. He got going again, but left rear puncture from the driver's point of view, of course, that is. Not much tyre left. Let's try this one, but not quite wet enough to go, you know, while we're in, we'll stick on rain tires. Clearly it's not, but they have to consider it. The reports of rain keeping all the teams on their toes. 7th place overall now is Nicholas Gomar, leading the AM class with Jake Rattenbury 3.5 seconds behind him. So I can't tell you just for now exactly where the car that was second, Alberto, there's the replay, deep into the gravel bed, and then coming out of Shavelak, number 14, Paul Harkamer, who was leading the AM class from Nicholas Gomar. Round he went, he got going all over again, but big sideways moment, trying to get the power, the right to get the traction to get out of the gravel bed. Perhaps and understandably cursing that he's just thrown away second place. Alberto De Falco looking for a fabulous run. Unfortunately, it's not going to be their result today. Harold Schlegelmilch benefited from that, was 4th, has moved up to 3rd. He's 2.8 seconds down on the race leader, Vito Postiglione. And in fact, over the last lap, Stuart Middleton in 2nd place in this car, the number 32. There we are, diving into the Hugenholzbach with Schlegelmilch in pursuit, is starting to catch. He just catches the race leader, 1.1 seconds last time around. Here are the first 3 in the background of the shot. Sergei Afanasiev now in 4th place, and Bartosz Paczewski, he started 6th, he's up to 5th, he's had his moments. Had that big switch at Shavelak where he lost a couple of positions. This is Shavelak. No problems for Sergei Afanasiev. And don't forget, when you look at any TV shots, it flattens the image. The fact you can see appreciable gradient change just shows how steep it is, and the drop, if you ever have the chance to walk out to the sand dunes and look down on Shavelak, you'll appreciate it's a plunge down towards the Mastersbach. 5 seconds from Vito Postiglione, who's leading, Stuart Middleton 2nd, Harold Schlegelmilch 5 seconds back to Sergei Afanasiev. Sergei's pace dropping away a little bit last time around, but he's picking up the pace this time, setting his best first sector. The lap always split into 3 sectors, and maybe just gaining confidence. There he is in the background of the shot, number 3. He will hand over to his co-winner yesterday, Danny Cruz. We heard Danny down on the grid, being suitably cautious, but fully aware that overtaking is very, very tricky. You've got to plan it, you've got to have a little bit of luck if you want to make it work. Down towards the tail of the field, car number 77, that's Thomas Mantovani right on. This is in the AM class, led by Nicholas Gomar. Jake Rattenbury is 2nd, and this is the battle. 99, Robert Swinger and Thomas Padovani right onto his tail there. And the bright blue metallic car, 77, that's the 2nd car from Artline Team Georgia. Sister car to the car that's running 3rd overall, Harold Schlegelmilch. Battle for 9th place overall, but the importance for these drivers is to get on the AM podium, to gather the points in the AM Championship. This is the battle for 3rd in AM. Just looking to see how far behind the car in 2nd place they are. 2nd place, 5.3 seconds up the track, and that's Jake Rattenbury. And in turn, he is 5 and a bit seconds behind Nicola Gomar. So with that spin for Paul Harkamer, who's trying to fight back, he's now 5th in class. It's been very good for everybody else. Was the class leader running 6th overall. He's now down in 11th overall. There's Nicola Gomar leading the AM class, 5 and a bit seconds over Jake Rattenbury. And Nicola's had another very, very good season in that class. He's won the class in both of the opening races at round number 1 at Silverstone back in May. I'd suggest the temperatures here are probably not that different to when they were. It's a coolish summer's day here at Zandvoort. You can see the plants on the sand dune blowing in the wind. It comes and it goes, but the good thing is, though it's a cloudy day, there was blue sky earlier. We did have a report about 5 minutes ago of possible light rain at the far end of the circuit. That doesn't appear to have manifested itself on the pit ball as yet, as I look out for my commentary position. And of course, where do you not want the rain when it starts to fall? You do not want it through Rob Slottermacherbach, through Shavelak and Mastersbach, 3 very, very tricky corners, and of course, that is precisely where it fell. Vito Postiglione still in the lead, about to do some lapping. I think that'll be Hans Fabry he'll catch. And if the cars look similar, that's because they're both in the bright green of Imperiale Racing. Hans is running 20th and last at the moment, yet there he is, Dutch racer. And in the background, there comes our race leader. He's had a really, really good lap there. gained half a second and more. He's now 2.2 seconds clear of Stuart Middleton. And Stuart being rather impeded through Shea Black will go around the outside, but there isn't much of an outside. That was very, very unfortunate. I'm not entirely sure that Hans Fabry had enough traction to stay tight. Stuart Middleton has lost more time. Schlegelmilch getting the better of that equation there, so he's gained about half a second, and unfortunately for Stuart Middleton and for his teammate waiting in the pits, Jack Bartholomew, it's gone the wrong way for him in the chase after Vito Postiglione. And Sergei Afanasiev in 4th place overall. As Schlegelmilch cuts into Middleton's advantage, Afanasiev is going the other way, unfortunately. He lost nearly a second last time around. Another 5 minutes and the pit window will open, and I would think Sergei Afanasiev will be a fairly early caller. He's diving up the inside of Hans Fabry. That's a lap put on Fabry. Didn't lose too much time there, which is absolutely key. But the driver who lost no time whatsoever, crossing the start-finish line to complete 9 laps. Vito Postiglione's lead looks so it's gone out even more. It's 2.2 seconds. Just waiting for the clock to confirm what it is this time around. 3.0 seconds, nearly 3.1 seconds. And certainly Harold Schlegelmilch was even faster than Stuart Middleton. So yes, here's the battle for second place. It's getting closer and closer. I think definitely as the pro driver in that Pro-Am lineup, Harold Schlegelmilch will stay out as long as he can, so he's probably going to have about another dozen minutes racing that number 12 before handing over to Shota Abkazava. Whereas Stuart Middleton, very well balanced pairing with Jack Bartholomew, he can have his choice of when he comes in, and is probably going to run a more equitable 50-50 split of this 50-minute race. See. And now the race leader has just been a little delayed, going past Superchai Weerabor Pong, the bright red and yellow car. So the advantage he gained when they passed Hans Fabry, he's now lost, going past the car in 18th place. But will the car in 18th place, the bright number 71 of Weerabor Pong, be kind? Will he be helpful to the next two coming through, to Stuart Middleton and Harold Schlegelmilch? They're right upon the bright car from M-Tech. Now, this could be an opportunity. They come to the penultimate pair of corners. No problem for Middleton, but slight problem perhaps for Schlegelmilch. No, well, it was, because he had to clout the curb on the inside, his right-hand wheels riding over the grass. He dived up inside the tie racer. So that was his turn to lose a tiny bit of ground. So let's see what the intervals are. Over the start-finish line, last time it was 3.085 seconds from Postiglione in the lead of the race to Stuart Middleton. 2.5, half a second taken out of that lead. It's just the luck of the draw where you come across the back-marking cars, whether they see you, whether they can even respond and have the dynamics to get their cars out of the way. Another car in front of them, that's Kurt Wagner, now right in front. He's just moved ahead as Weerabor Pong into 18th place, but now he's the one through the Hugenholz box who's obstructing Stuart Middleton. There's no space for any driver to go there. It's a very, very narrow stretch of the circuit. And Schlegelmilch's having to go the long way around the outside, but has the speed to do it. Two and a half minutes until the pit window opens all over again, so Kiko Galbiati will be suited, booted, feeling very, very keen indeed to take over the race-leading car from Imperiale Racing, take it over from the driver who started from pole, Vito Postiglione. Vito's not put a wheel wrong. He had pressure early on in the race, but suddenly, with Alberto De Falco either having a spin then picking up a puncture, or picking up a puncture and having a spin, dropped out of second place, brought him the breathing space. This is something that, breathing space is something that not everybody has, and now Robert Swinger in 99 is being pushed very hard by the driver who spun out of the lead. Here's Paul Harkamer, third place in the AM class, but don't forget he was leading it and leading it easily. Had that spin, the black car with the red stripe over the top. He surely will pick off Robert Swinger over the next couple of laps, but Swinger is driving on the racing line. Paul Harkamer, the young Dutchman, is having to find out a different line, how to get past him. Tight part of the circuit, he may want to make a move down into the Hans-Ernst Bock, but his front end washed away, so all that advantage falls away all over again. But he's made a better exit onto that sort of infield, back straight. Let's have a look. But then again, it's a very, very tight corner there. The sharp right, the 90-degree right at Hans-Ernst Bock, not really a passing place, but may have a little look up the inside, but Robert Swinger is being very, very hearty in his defence, not sliding wide, no siree, but running wide on the exit of the third corner from the end of the lap. Paul Harkamer, well, his main chance is to get a good blast out of the penultimate corner. He's coming up the inside into the final corner. That's bold. Can he make it stick? And will that cost him a momentum onto the start-finish straight? But the move has been done, so he didn't even wait until Tarzan. So Paul Harkamer, again, a Dutch racer, knows all the tricks of the trade here at Zandvoort and did that very, very good effect. Up into third place in class. Right, how far to his next target? Well, he's fully 10 seconds, 10.5 seconds down on Jake Rattenbury. Rattenbury second in the AM class. Nicola Gomar still leading that in 7th place overall. Harold Schlegelmilch, number 12, third in the race, was 4th. The spin for De Falco elevated him to 3rd. He's desperately keen to get onto the tail of Stuart Middleton, but Stuart Middleton, I think, will be pitting that number 32 car from 2nd place before Schlegelmilch comes in to hand over to Shota Abkazava. So I'm fairly sure we'll see the Artline Team Georgia car at least spend a period of this race up in 2nd place. We haven't talked about Vito Postiglione for a while because he's out of shot. He's 3.3 seconds to the good. Let's see what the margin is this time. Neither of these drivers, well, let's see. Of course, they were obstructed. Was it this time? Last time? I forget. When they went through the Hugenholz spot, the gap's gone out to 3.2 seconds. In fact, they are almost identical lap times to within 1/10 of a second for the top 3 drivers. Sergei Afanasiev in 4th place. Well, he's dropped a second off the pace. He's still comfortable in 4th overall, well clear of Bartosz Paczewski. Just trying to see. Bartosz has taken, the pit window is now open. Bartosz is the first of the front runners to come into the pit lane. So Anthony Lambert in number 30 moves up to 5th place overall. Windscreen wipers going on Vito Postiglione's race leading number 44 car from Imperiale Racing. He's at the point of the circuit, probably the trickiest point of the circuit. Down through Shavelat, through the little twister, and down towards the Masters box. Seems to have the grip, only uses those windscreen wipers intermittently, but look, rain on the lens in the pit lane. So at one point it was the far end of the circuit, now it is here as well. For all these drivers, they've pushed hard for the best part of just over 20 minutes now. They do not want to have that little slip up. Do I sense in that shot that Vito Postiglione has actually come off the pace a little bit more? Yes, he has. He's lost a second in the first sector of this lap, second and a bit. Stuart Middleton, and now full proper rain. Oh, you can see the front end of the cars washing away, the windscreen wipers going. There's Harold Schlegelmilch in 3rd place overall. 3.9 seconds from 1st through to 3rd at the start of the lap, but it's coming right down. Stuart Middleton in 2nd place is being more bold than Vito Postiglione, but Vito maybe just has decided, you know what, I've got Kiko Galbiati waiting in the pits. Why don't I let him have a turn? But then again, do you want to stand as long as you can to see if this light rain turns to heavy rain all around the circuit? And will wet tyres be the answer? So probably hold your pit stop right to the end of the pit window. Time of plenty still, another 8 minutes. 1.888 seconds. Vito Postiglione has certainly lost a lot of time. Another 1.4 seconds on that lap. It's come down from a comfortable lead to a less than comfortable lead. And in turn, Stuart Middleton has really dropped Harold Schlegelmilch. Now 2 seconds between them, whereas before it was 4 coats of paint. Looking for grip, trying to get the power down, just not wanting to be too bold and have the tail break away. Windscreen wiper still going. Race leader Vito Postiglione racing as if on eggshells. In fact, they're all doing just that very thing, but Stuart Middleton just seems a little bit more confident at this stage in the race. Let's see how they fare around the first of the 3 sectors of this lap. Just remember, the gap was 1.888 seconds. Just looking for that first split time. Who's gaining, who's losing? 0.4 of a second gained by the car in 2nd place. Stuart Middleton closing in. That should take him to less than 1.5 seconds. Under 1.5 seconds, sliding very wide indeed, as he's just putting the power down with more audacity, if you will, than Vito Postiglione. But Vito's been driving Lamborghinis for many, many years, and he's probably got the best measure of it all. Harold Schlegelmilch is also attacking. Fastest of the 3 in the first part of this lap. So they're all having their moments, but the general story is 1st to 2nd is closing in, 1st to 3rd is closing in. 4th place, Sergei Afanasiev. Yeah, he's trying to be careful. Far more rain at the far end of the circuit. Just have to look at that shot. Dearie me. Is anybody going to make a slip up? Let's hope not, but it's very, very easy to do that thing. And look how the gap's come down. 1st to 2nd, it was 1.888 seconds. Just remember that interval. Vito Postiglione still leading for Imperiale Racing, but it must have come down to about a second. 1.1 seconds. 2.5 seconds back to Schlegelmilch in the metallic blue number 12. And fourth place car just coming across the start-finish line, passing the pit exit, that's Sergei Afanasyev. He's 8.8 seconds down on Pistiglione. But even with every twist and turn as they go through Gerlach-Bocht, down into dip at Hugenholzbock, the gap is coming right down, and there's a back marker right in front of the race leader. Postiglione has to be very careful indeed here. The all-black car with a white roof trying to stay out of the way, hasn't necessarily seen him. Tricky. It's down to about 0.2 of a second now, 0.3 of a second. They still bunched up behind number 9. The number 9 car, Target Racing's Alberto De Falco kicked that off, but it's now, I think, in the hands of his teammate. Let's have a quick check of that. Davide Venditti. No, it's still Alberto De Falco. Of course, he came in with a puncture, and he's a driver who, don't forget, was hunting down Postiglione. Couldn't make it stick. But now, in this moment, trying to go the whole way around the outside, and into the lead goes Stuart Middleton. Comes to the north of England, they have a fair bit of rain there, and he's really shown great aplomb. So while Alberto De Falco, who's not slow, don't forget he was challenging for the lead of the race, started on the outside the front row, runs in front of them, seizing the moment on the exit of Masters Bocht, up into the lead of the race. Stuart Middleton, pit stops, pit window still open. Now what's Postiglione going to do? He's about to be attacked all over again by Harold Schlegelmilch as they tiptoe around the track. And with that long shot, you can see how more and more rain is falling. This is the approach to the penultimate corner of the lap, and then they swing onto the start-finish straight. Are any of this trio, the front three, going to dive into the pits this time around? Which suggests that Stuart Middleton will carry on. He's got the advantage, got the lead, and the next two coming into the pit lane. So Postiglione in from what had been the lead, just becomes second place, and Harold Schlegelmilch diving in behind as well. But for now, Stuart Middleton's going to try and press on. Maybe it's a wise tactic. As I said, you probably want to make your pit stop as late as you possibly can to see what happens with the weather. Hans Fabry appears to have just gone past the position he needs to be in his pit stop. And the crew, well, they're trying to make place for this driver because that's Vito Postiglione. So, of course, he is their number 1 car, leading the race, starting from pole position, right at the sharp end of the championship. Cannot bear, well, rain tyres being brought out, no surprise there. Anybody who tries to go out on slicks, I think, is in for a nasty surprise. A driver who started the race and has felt the arrival of the rain and the onset of an ever wetter track would have a better feel for it, but going out cold on a slick set of rubber, I think, is a recipe for disaster. Busy place in the pit lane. Maybe that's another reason that Stuart Middleton decided to continue deeper into the race before handing over to Jack Bartholomew. But maybe it's simply he'd just taken the lead of the race and he really fancied having a lap out front on his own. Always hard to tell how the weather will shape over the next handful of minutes when you're on the Dutch coast. Any maritime weather has its own fickle nature, and certainly the wind has dropped a little bit, so I don't see great change coming, but as the tyre changes are made, off come the slicks, on go the treaded tyres to the car that had been in the lead of the race, lost it half a lap before coming in. So Kiko Galbiati will not be using slicks, he'll be using some rubber that will offer some grip, which is a very good thing indeed. Slight fumble with the wheel change there, nothing serious. Windscreen wiper still going. 5 seconds clear of Sergei Afanasyev, who continued, went from 4th place up into 2nd. If anything, it looks around that lap, it might have swung in the advantage of Afanasyev over our race leader when I thought it might have gone the other way. Let's see what this back. Yeah, down to 3.7 seconds. It's a better lap for Afanasyev. Didn't see if there was any overtaking that needed to be done, any lapping by our race leader, but just as Stuart Middleton looked like the man in the wet conditions, Sergei Afanasyev put in a real flurry. And I'd suggest next time, oh dear, Super Chai-Wira Borwan-Pong has had a moment on the exit of the second part of the Hans Ernst Bocht. He's got to come in at some point. He's in fact made his pit stop to hand over to himself. Half the field or thereabouts, a large number of the field run solo, so they do the first half and the second half of the race, but they do still have to serve a pit stop that runs to a minimum mandatory time. Exploratory moment for Kiko Galbiati. He's come out just in front of the race leader, but of course the 32 car of Stuart Middleton needs to come and make a pit stop, and it will be coming in this time around, or would have broken the rules. But right now Galbiati is, as to my eye, it's just brightening up a little bit at the far end of the circuit. But don't forget, of course, TV cameras often make things look a lot brighter than they are to the human eye, so maybe it's still pretty grim and grey out on the back half of the track. Not as much spray coming up from the cars now. Don't forget, we had a long shot a short while ago that really made it quite hard to pick the cars out. Just showed how much rain was in the air in the back half of the circuit. Middleton will be coming in this time around, absolutely pussyfooting through those last sequence of corners from Hans Ernst Bocht. Into the penultimate corner, number 32 from Benaldi Motorsport, the car leading the race, will be diving into the pits. Don't forget, it got into the race lead half a lap before Postiglione, the pole man, came in. Postiglione's car now in the hands of Galbiati, just gone out of the bottom of the shot. And Sergei Afanasiev also diving in from second place overall. Danny Kroos will take over from him, and Jack Bartholomew will take over the 32 car from Stuart Middleton. So everybody has come in before half a minute before the pit window closes. Okay, what tyres are going to be brought out by Benaldi Motorsport for Jack Bartholomew? Middleton out, Bartholomew into 32. And behind, taller figure of Danny Kroos takes over from Sergei Afanasiev. Both these cars entered by Benaldi Motorsport. And now, Kiko Galbiati, well, I'll tell you his lap time next time around. He did a 1 minute, no, of course his first one was a slow lap because he crossed the timing beam during the pit stop. So the next time around we'll see the pace that Galbiati is achieving in 44. The car that started from pole position. Sorry, I was just listening to see if I could hear the words of wisdom. There's 9 and 44, the cars that were fighting for first and second places in the first part of the race, but unfortunately for number 9, for Davide Venditti, some way down. Couldn't hear the instruction being given by Jack Bartholomew as he took over the car that had come in from the lead of the race, the number 32 car from Benaldi Motorsport. Where's he going to come out? Where is the green car coming down the track? Well, he's come out level with the Artline Team Georgia car. No, he's way ahead of number 44, and a near spin in the background. 44 was the race leader. Don't forget, they were running just in front, but a lap down on the 32 car of Benaldi Motorsport. But looking a long way back to find car number 44. There, only now coming onto the start-finish straight, is going the opposite way behind the paddock, is Jack Bartholomew with Danny Kroos. So suddenly the Benaldi Motorsport cars, they found an advantage for staying out right to the end of the pit window. One of the two Artline Team Georgia cars making its escape from the pit lane. So I think we've had a real shuffle of the order. Of course, Benaldi Motorsport 32 had got into the lead of the race just before the pit stops. Oh, dearie me, Davide Venditti, he was running a lap down ahead of 44, the erstwhile race leader, and Venditti has got it wrong, and that's going to the Hugenholzbocht just behind the paddock. You can see the start straight in the background with the state-of-art racing gantry over the top of the grid, the grandstand in the background. It's a very tight isthmus between the outer paddock and the inner paddock, but right now let's just see if we're going to have waved yellow flags for sure. Are we going to have a safety car? Because that stricken car is sitting, going nowhere on a very narrow section of the circuit. So the driver leading the race, Jack Bartholomew, had a 3.8 second advantage over Danny Kroos in the number 3. If we have a safety car, that will close down to nothing. If we have a full course yellow, it will stay as it is. So a little bit of hiatus here, just under 18 minutes remaining in this race. This is the race leading car. Yesterday came home in third place for Jack Bartholomew, starting and handing to Stuart Middleton, but Middleton did a really good job, particularly when the conditions got very tricky with further rain falling. Safety car will be coming out. SC on the screen, there was a board being held out to the drivers with the double waved yellow flags. So Stuart Middleton in the pits, his heart will sink slightly, and certainly for Jack Bartholomew, realised he was going back into the lead of the race and was very thankful for that, but with the safety car coming out to gather the field, it will bunch right up. He'll have Danny Kroos right on his tail, and Danny, here's a replay, right in front of the driver that started on pole position. Unfortunately, the car that was challenging in the early stages still had it punctured, just the tail getting away on the exit of Gerlachbocht and into the barriers, scattering a little bit of debris onto the circuit. And that is why the safety car is bunching the field up. Slowing them down to next to nothing because there's a very narrow stretch of track there. They have to hope there's no bad shards of anything nasty. Superchai Bora1 Pong just drives to the left, as they all do. Antonio Wassos following through. So once they've got men and women with brooms will clear that up. The driver, I think we saw get out, but I can't confirm that. So a slight hiatus as the drivers lead around. We need to get the cars that are not in the lead of the group will be waved through. They will. We need number 32 car to be at the front of that line. There it is. And that means that Vito Castiglione's car, now in the hands of Kiko Galbiati, that was some distance behind after the pit stops. It had really gone the way of the two Bonaldi Motorsports car, 32 and 3, now driven by Jack Bartholomew and Danny Cruz. They have got the Galbiati car right onto their tail. So there's Davide Venditti. Good to see him out of the car, but the car will not continue in the race quite clearly, but it's going to be, as the clock counts down, it's a 50-minute race. We've just got over 15 minutes remaining in this race, but it's going to be a while under the safety car period while the car is moved and the track is swept clear on the entrance of the Hugenholzbocht. But I must say I've been very impressed by the marshalling here at Zandvoort, as I would expect, a traditional circuit with marshals of many years and decades of experience, and of course we cannot go racing without the marshals, so they spring into action. They know what they need to do. But for the Target Racing crew, their lead car, Alberto De Falco, started from the outside of the front row. Race glitched by having the off and the puncture, or maybe the puncture and the off out of the Masters box, and now completely out of the equation after that collision with the tyre wall on the approach to the Hugenholzbocht. Here's Danny Cruz, victor yesterday. Can he do it all over again today? Running second. Certainly Sergei Afanasiev seemed to fall away from that lead grouping. We had a lot of his onboard footage, which was fabulous around the circuit. And then as conditions got worse and worse, Sergei picked up his relative pace and started to close in on Stuart Middleton. And they came in from first and second positions, pitted at the same time. The last lap they could have done so before the pit window closed. And a message on screen saying the driver of number 9, okay, and at medical centre. So that's very good news indeed for Davide Venditti. Also good to have confirmation as quickly as that from the officials too. So bear in mind, is that Art Team Georgia car about to dive into the pits? Not, just taking a different line. Kiko Galbiati in third place in number 44. He cannot get ahead of the blue and white car. That's the number 3 with Danny Cruz on board. Driver leading the line, Jack Bartholomew, winner of the opening pair of races at Silverstone that kicked the season off in the European Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Stuart Middleton, his race is done. He is now in the pit garage looking at the screens, trying to gauge, is there going to be a restart or are we going to finish the race under safety car? I'm fairly sure we've got enough time to have the restart, but the lights aboard the roof of that safety car still flashing, still alerting the drivers that the situation continues to be cleared up. They will continue to drive around behind it. There we go, past the scene. So the track is pretty much swept clear, so very well done to the marshalling crew on the approach to Hugenholzbocht. This is a corner that's going to be slightly curtailed in time for the first Dutch Grand Prix in a very long time. The last one was 1985, but 2020 is the year when the Formula One World Championship will return here. You can be sure every square metre of the dunes around the circuit will be filled with people, which will be absolutely fabulous. 13 minutes to go. Here are our top 3. Quite a few other cars, and then we're looking for Carol Bash, who will be in number 8. He's about, I think, another 5 seconds further back in another bright green car. That's entered also by Imperiali Racing. He has a couple of interlopers, if you will. Bright green car, the right-hand side of our screen. There it is, number 8. That is 4th overall, but he's got 3 tail enders, 3 cars who are a lap down. He's got to get past, and the pole is very, very quick indeed. But what is not his friend is the clock. Look, the number is getting smaller and smaller. 12 minutes, almost just over 12 and a half minutes to go until the checkered flag can be unfurled. He will pick his way past, but what he wants, the pole wants to get up onto the tail of Kiko Galbiati. And Kiko Galbiati, of course, is interested in passing Danny Cruz, who in turn is trying to get into the lead of the race ahead of Jack Bartholomew. But for now, that's all supposition. It's all what the drivers are imagining, because they're still running around behind the safety car. While this is going on, quick check of the timing screens, and there's a minimum time that you can spend at a pit stop. If you go out any sooner than that, you'll be penalised. And car 64, making his debut in the championship this year, Antonios Vossos, the Greek racer, running 3rd in the AM class. His is under investigation. We hope, obviously, he's not going to be pinged, because that will affect him making it up onto the podium. But right now, he's right on the tail of Nicolas Gomar, who's 2nd in the AM class, but having had the number 14 Target Racing car spin out of 6th place and the AM class lead early in the race in the hands of Paul Harkamer. He did a great recovery drive. Now in the hands of Matthias Bacher, it's up into the lead of the class overall, leading the AM class in 8th. So could be a good day for the Dutch duo on home ground. Still the cleanup goes on. And another thing that's happening at the moment, the rain has moved away. No longer rain at the far end of the circuit. And the wind is making its doing a job. The cars are doing their job as well, drying out the racing line. So when we get back to full speed, the lights are out on the roof of the safety car. That means next time around, or this time around to the start-finish line, it will pull off into the pit lane. So they've still got most of the lap to run. They're just going down to Hugenholzbocht. In the background, you could just see the slight scuffing on the tyre wall where Davide Venditti went in number 9. That is out of the race. He's down at the medical centre and reported as okay. But importantly for us, safety car in at the end of this lap, which should leave them about 8.5 minutes of racing. Can Jack Bartholomew take a second win this year with Stuart Middleton? Middleton is watching, Bartholomew is driving. Danny Cruz, can he make it 2 wins in 1 weekend? At RC, certainly a very strong runner yesterday, sharing victory. Their first win of the year with Sergei Afanasiev. Almost always on the podium. 3 third places for Afanasiev and Cruz till yesterday, and a 4th. But pole position, fastest lap and victory looks very good on their record sheet. Really, the field needs to start bunching up, and certainly if you're Carol Bash, who's got several interlopers between himself and this trio that are leading the field behind the safety car, he wants them to get as close as they possibly can. Doesn't want to lose any more time dropping back from this lead trio as they run behind the safety car, because he knows any moment when they get onto the start-finish straight, they will pick the moment, and the driver at the front of the field will be the first one to plant the throttle. Jack Bartholomew is going to have to hope he can catch out Danny Cruz behind him, fool him, and of course nobody can overtake until they get to the start-finish line. But it's about the gaps between these cars. So here we are in second place, Danny Cruz looking at the tail end of Jack Bartholomew. Bartholomew leading around to those final few corners. Behind the outer paddock they go now, looking straight ahead. You can see the penultimate corner of the lap, and then they go into the lightly banked Arie Luyendyk-Bocht and then try and get a slingshot onto the start-finish straight and carry all their speed down towards Tarzan. But right now, playing it cool, keeping it slow. Jack Bartholomew bunching the field right up. He wants Danny Cruz to be looking behind him as much as in front. He doesn't want to be attacked by Cruz. And Cruz is the meat in the sandwich with Kiko Galbiati right on his tail. Carol Bash knows he's got to pick off. He's 4th place overall, but he's got, I think, 3 cars between himself and Kiko Galbiati. Galbiati in the bright green car with the yellow flashes. And now Jack Bartholomew plants the throttle, goes early in the Arie Luyendyk-Bocht, but I'd say Danny Cruz read that very well. Kiko Galbiati lost a car length. In the background of the shot, I could see Carol Bash going past the back markers. But it looks so it's a safe run for the race leader down into turn 1. Someone coming in very quickly, not going to take the corner quite clearly. There's the gravel. And unfortunately for 33, the finish race at Mikko Escalainen, it never looked on. Gravity and physics were not going to be his friend as they went down to Tarzan. So I'm afraid that was running 5th in the AM class and now dropped to the tail of that grouping. It's very, very tight indeed. A wide line by Galbiati trying to get better run out of the exit to move up into 2nd place. But Danny Cruz moved across in front of him as he had the right to do. And look, Carol Bash has been the star. He had those interlopers, the second of those bright green cars, right on the tail. He did that job down the start-finish straight, picked them off, and what a run for the pole. He's now on the outside line as they look to Chevlach check the level of grip back at racing speed for the first time. Just under 8 minutes remaining in this race. It's Jack Bartholomew from Dutch ace Danny Cruz, and suddenly a lot of pressure from Kiko Galbiati. Carol Bash onto his tail, and with his own tail up through the Masters Bocht they go, scrabbling for grip. It's still Bartholomew in the lead of the race. Galbiati ran very, very wide. Now he's on the tighter inside line. If Bash can cut a tighter exit onto that infield, slightly curving straight, he may get a run onto 3rd place. Hasn't happened as yet. Rain still on the lens of the camera out of the back of the track though. Bartholomew leads down to the Hans-Ernst-Bocht, got it covered. Very hard to find a space into that tight right that feeds immediately into left. And oh dear, Galbiati's going for a spin from 3rd place. Worse still, he's stuck in the gravel. Everybody is coming past. Meanwhile, the race is going on with Danny Cruz trying to go the long way round. Past Bartholomew on the outside the whole way around those last 2 corners. He pulls it off in the penultimate corner. That was brave, and gets the thumbs up from John Watson, who's come to join me and enjoy the last of the Lamborghini action. So the Dutchman, he picked up a win yesterday. I didn't really think it was on the cards, particularly when Jack Bartholomew seemed to control the restart, but that was super positive. I thought that was a move that was going to take 2 corners, but he did it all in the penultimate corner. Okay, here's another thing. Can Carol Bash come up in second? Can he go on to lead the race? The speed with which he caught those top 3 was quite remarkable on the restart, and he is definitely tail up and hungry for more, but tail down and going nowhere at all unfortunately, was Kiko Galbiati. Will be kicking himself, but it's all a guessing game when you try and find how much grip there is on a restart after a safety car. Just not enough into the Hans-Ernst-Bocht, and out of the race. Galbiati will be kicking himself. Postiglione will just probably be going to have a coffee right now. They had a really good shot. Tricky changing conditions here. And right now, it is a superb drive from Danny Cruz, leading the race, pulling away. Jack Bartholomew might have thought he had this one in the bag. Of course, don't forget, he had a sizable lead, and there's a replay all on his own. Unfortunately, Kiko Galbiati getting it wrong into the Hans-Ernst-Bocht, and will be enormously frustrated. So Jack Bartholomew had a sizable lead, pegged back to nothing by the safety car. Still, I felt confident that he might be able to take that on for his second win of the season, but it is not going to be, because Danny Cruz, teammate from Benaldi Motorsport, but enemy for the day, if you will, has gone past. And what's happened on this last lap is that Bartholomew has dropped the challenge of Carol Bash, just as the bright green car in the background looked as though it was going to be making all the moves. We've got a safety car out on the track. Well, there we have 5.25 minutes remaining, and that is very good news for Danny Cruz. It must be said, even without it, one thinks he'd pull clear, but now will we have time for that car to be pulled away? Kiko Galbiati's car, of course, it's around the corner. Drivers can't see it on the way into the Hans-Ernst-Bocht. It's stuck in the gravel trap. So there are our first three cars. They will bunch right up again. Car 64, I mentioned that Antonius Vossos was being looked at, his pit stop investigated for pit lane speed violation. So it wasn't a case of not spending the minimum time in the pits, it was not hitting the speed limiter fast enough. So what has become third place in the AM class will not be third place, because he has to serve a drive-through penalty. Shota Abkazava, well, this is going to be his advantage, because he was nearly 12 seconds down on Carol Bash in the battle for third place overall. In fact, the gap was so large the number 12 car wasn't in the battle, but under this safety car spell right in the end of the race, if he can get onto the tail and there is a restart, he may yet have a chance of getting an overall podium. For Danny Cruz, great move at the penultimate corner, fabulous move to go past Jack Bartholomew into the lead of the race. He is now the hunted, not the hunter. The hunter is Bartholomew when we get to the restart. Just waiting for that number 44 car, Kiko Galbiati, to be pulled clear of the gravel bed at the entrance to the Hans-Ernst-Bocht. Just sitting in a position that's blind on driver's approach, so it's the right decision to get the safety car out, but very frustrating indeed for some of the drivers, and for others it could be salvation. Let's see, the light's still flashing on the roof, no messages yet that the car has been removed. The clock continues to count down. 3.5 minutes remaining in this 50-minute race. Will it be 2 wins from 2 for Sergei Afanasiev, who's now in the pit garage at Benaldi Motorsport? Reverse role from yesterday when he was the driver who brought it home. Today it's Danny Cruz. There, number 7th place overall, leading the AM class, Nicola Gomar, but he's only just ahead of Matthijs Bacher. Matthijs in the black car with the red stripe up the middle. Number 14 giving chase. All the debated pace behind the safety car. 3 minutes remaining. The lights out on the roof of the safety car. In at the end of this lap. There is a message from race control. So plenty of attention has to be focused on who is going to get the drop when we get to the restart. This time it's not Bartholomew choosing when to go. It will be Danny Cruz in front of him. I have a feeling a corner called Tarzan could be a place of destiny for some of the drivers to see who's going to take the win in the second of the 2 Super Trofeo races here this weekend. Bunching up the field, the order is Danny Cruz, Jack Bartholomew, Carol Bash, a few cars in between, then Shota Abkazava leading the Pro-Am class in 4th overall, fancies a crack, but he's got to pass. Looks like about 2 or 3 other cars to get onto their tail. Really, it's a 3-way battle, and he's gone early. Danny Cruz went earlier than Jack Bartholomew by about 50 metres last time around. It's given him a slight advantage. Down to the first corner, he looks so he's safe. Bartholomew not close enough to make a move. Look, just 2 minutes left on the clock. Into the double right-hander. Everyone pretty tidy behind. Kang Ling, number 21, he had a spin yesterday. He's running 2nd in the Pro-Am class, so we'll be up on the podium, but all eyes at the front. Oh, having made that little break, Danny Cruz is now under pressure from Jack Bartholomew. A bit more rain on the lens at Hugenholzbach. This is a race that keeps on giving. Always a twist and a tail. Antonius Vossos just serving his drive-through penalty. That will drop him way down the AM Cup order and promote Stephen Licorice to 3rd place in class. looks drier than it has for a while out through Chevlach, but the time is counting down. We'll have one further lap. This is the penultimate lap of the race. Can Danny Cruz hang on to make it 2 wins from 2? Pushed very hard by Jack Bartholomew. Jack must be feeling, well, it was a very, very good passing manoeuvre to get past him, but I shouldn't have really let him by me between the penultimate and final corners, but the gap was there, and it was grabbed with both hands by Danny Cruz. Almost blue sky in the distance, getting brighter by the moment. It's been chopping and changing, little showers of rain coming through. It's only a 50-minute race, but there's been plenty of event, and the weather has played its role. Sprinkling rain at the far end of the circuit, catching out Alberto De Falco when he was challenging for the race lead. He went for a spin. Vito Postiglione carried on in the lead of the race, but don't forget the number 32 car hit the front just before the pit stops with Stuart Middleton driving. He handed it over to Jack Bartholomew. Bartholomew was in front, but then the safety car came out, lost his advantage, and then just on the restarts, very bold indeed, Danny Cruz moved into the lead of the race. Right, about to start the final lap of the race. The gap between them is half a second, one would think, and they've easily dropped Carol Bash. He's out at the back of the picture, just waiting for him to come through. In fact, has he crossed the start-finish line? Not as yet. Now he has. He has lost a considerable amount of time. 5.5 seconds back on the lead duo. But where is this move going to come? Into the Gerlach-Bock they go. But it looks like Danny Cruz on that dry line has got enough in hand. Here is Bash in 3rd place overall. Shota Abduzava is 4th, leading the Pro-Am class. But it's all eyes on that front battle. But I cannot see that Jack Bartholomew is getting any change at all. Brilliant, brilliant drive from Danny Cruz in the lead of the race. It's a Benaldi Motorsport 1 and 2, if you will, 1st and 2nd. Which order they'll finish, I'm fairly sure it's going to be 3 ahead of 32. Cruz ahead of Bartholomew. Through Chevlach they go. That part of the track is far drier than the bit just behind the pit and paddock. Tarzan's still a little bit slippery, but out the back of the circuit trying to carry as much speed as they can. A bit of a half dive there from Jack Bartholomew, but it's a tight right-hander, not a likely passing space. Now, let's see, the left-hander onto that infield straight. Boch 10, it's called rather memorably on the circuit map. Drier there. Now, a better exit from Bartholomew. Can he get a drag? But then the next corner, of course, is where Galbiati fell off. It's very, very tight indeed. It's a 90-degree corner. Galbiati's car has been removed from the gravel, but really the only likely challenge is into the final corner of the lap. Don't forget, that is where Cruz moved past Bartholomew into the lead of the race. I do not think that Bartholomew can mimic that move, make it pay. Into the final corner, the Arie Luijendijk-Bocht. The job is done. It's victory number 2 this weekend for the number 3 car of Benaldi Motorsport. It's Danny Cruz who takes the checkered flag today. There it is, 50 minutes of racing, and at the end the margin, well, it'll be around half a second, just waiting for that to be confirmed. 0.473 of a second, so great delight there. 3rd place, Carol Bash. 4th will be Shota Abduzava, and just looking to see, so Abduzava, when he takes 4th place, will win the Pro-Am class, and Matthijs Bakker, who's got ahead of Nicola Gomar, but he's now behind him. Hold on, he's at 89 ahead of 14, just trying to have a look. Yes, it is, that's been reversed on this final lap. Matthijs Bakker has lost the AM class lead. Oh, is traffic going to have a role to play? They're in behind 77, he's a bit further back. That's Stephen Licorice, who was 3rd in the AM class. Just waiting, looks as though Nicola Gomar has done it again by the smallest of margin from Matthijs Bakker, but Sergei Afanasiev is given the lift today. Bearded figure on the right, the Russian racer, absolutely delighted with life there. Taking 2 wins in 2 days, that really propels him up the championship table. And you can see, very happy indeed on board the race-winning car. And in fact, Carol Bash lost so much ground on the last lap, I failed to notice he fell to 4th place overall. Joseph Zaruba, car 66, the quiet one in the race, started by Jacob Knoll, has moved up to 3rd place. Right at the end of the race, the last lap, oh yeah, well, 10 seconds lost, 9 seconds lost by Carol Bash, so I don't know if he had a problem, but he got close and then started falling back, but it was precipitous at the end of the race as he fell back. And Zaruba went past both Bash and Abkazava, so right tyres, right time. Brilliant, brilliant charge. So there is the order at the end of the race. Sergei Afanasiev started, Danny Cruz brought it home, did the overtaking manoeuvre on Jack Bartholomew to take a fabulous win to make it 2 from 2 at Zandvoort. Bartholomew and Middleton had to settle for 2nd place, ruining that safety car period that cost them the lead. But Joseph Zaruba and Jacob Knoll, the 2 drivers from Czechia, up to 3rd place. Fantastic run, all done on the final lap. Karol Bash, Bartosz Pachecki, 4th, leading Pro-Am car, Shota Abkazava and Harold Schlegelmilch. Then Niels Lagrange and Anton Lambert, the 2 Belgian racers, and Nicola Gomar, another win for him in the AM class. It's proving to be a very, very good season. And that was by the shortest of margins, the smallest of margins over Matthijs Bakker under a fifth of a second at the finish line. So, plenty of action up and down the order, and the winning car in LC, the Lamborghini Cup, is 79 Jose Collado, with the Semelan brothers second and Liber Voracek bringing it home in third place in class. An awful lot of action, a slip up here, a slip up there. Good to report that Davide Venditti, who had that little clash with the wall at the exit, or the entrance to Hugenhofsbach, report from the medical centre that he is okay, the car is not. And that is the last of the Super Trofeo action from Zandvoort. It's been a race of double race weekend, different track conditions, one an afternoon race in the dry, today a morning race on a damp track that became wet, but a fantastic second win for the drivers who started back on 5th position on the grid. Sergei Afanasiev kicked off and Danny Cruz brought it home to victory. He'll be bringing that car back round to stop beneath the podium, and I'm sure there'll be great celebrations. Certainly they were excited yesterday, but 2 from 2 will make them extra proud. So as the Super Trofeo cars come in, their weekend is run, but it's been a lot of entertainment. The first visit for the European Lamborghini Super Trofeo to Zandvoort, and I suggest not the last, because it's been a track the drivers all love to race on, love to drive on. It's tricky to race on. It's not easy for overtaking, and it does make any passing manoeuvre, and we saw some around the outside today, all the sweeter for all concerned. Sergei Afanasiev, he said his prayers. He wanted 1 win, he got 1. He even wanted 2, he's got 2 now. And the Benaldi Motorsport crew, they won the prize yesterday for being the noisiest crew beneath the podium, and they look as though they're going to up the ante today. Sunday at Zandvoort, the sun is now shining. They fought really hard indeed, and that passing manoeuvre to get past Jack Bartholomew to take the win was enormously appreciated by everybody who watched it. A really great move. So Danny Cruz, the driver who's really, really new to cars like these, he's stepping up the power band. He's moved up from racing TCR Silhouette touring cars last year to these mighty Super Trofeo Lamborghinis, and he's really, really making a point. Sergei Afanasiev doesn't really know where to put himself. He is just so delighted. And the first time that Danny Cruz has been all finger and thumbs all day is simply trying to get his helmet off, but can't wait to hear the words from the winning duo, because they are clearly on cloud 9 after a fabulous couple of days here at Zandvoort. Rest of the class winners and top 3 in each of those other classes lining up beneath the podium. We'll have the 4 podium ceremonies. So prizes for those who have win the battles within the overthink. But let's go down with the winners. Sergei Afanasiev and the driver who brought it home caught up with Danny Cruz down below the podium.
Guys, a massive congratulations. What a race that was. Danny, how did you manage to pass Jack there?
I don't know, I found the grip in the safety car lap. I found that there was on the outside more grip. I saw him on the inside and I knew I had him, so yeah. Was just thinking, I don't know.
You should have watched this guy as you were passing him. His pace was priceless. Happy to be here back at Victory Lane. 2 out of 2 for you guys this weekend.
That was amazing, amazing job at Homeland, let's say, for us. And what to do? Let's push more and more.
Yes.
You guys are still the loudest here. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dakota. Sergei Afanasiev and Danny Cruz lapping up this moment. They worked for that. And for Benaldi Motorsport, again, another feather in their cap. You can see the great team joy from fabulous success. It was difficult work, and I think they also had a masterstroke in waiting as long as they could before they brought their 2 cars in. And don't forget, it was the sister car that was overtaken, the 32 car, started by Stuart Middleton, and with the race finished by Jack Bartholomew. So good tactics there. Look at the points. Sergei Afanasiev, Danny Cruz, sound familiar? Race winners, double race winners, now to the top of the points table. Kiko Galbiati and Vito Postilioni down to second place. Kiko will be kicking himself for sliding off when challenging at the front end of the field. Karol Bash and Bartosz Paczewski lost a little bit of pace at the end of the race, but still third overall. Stuart Middleton and Jack Bartholomew are third and a second place this weekend. They're closing in 4th place overall. But for Sergei Afanasiev and Danny Cruz, it's looking very, very good. Always does when you're on the top of the championship table. And some of the runners in the junior classes, if you will, also filling the overall table. Further down, Robert Swinger had another good run today. But Harold Schlegelmilch likewise working his way towards the front with that strong run. But right at the end, it really was Jacob Knoll that moved to the sharp end of the field along with his teammate Joseph Saruba. Surprised us all, read the final restart perfectly, and moved up from 5th to 4th to 3rd, all on the final lap. Weather continues to change. The clouds roll in from the North Sea across the dunes around Zandvoort. It's turning into a very, very fine Sunday. Yesterday started grey, was wet, turned to blue skies at certain points through the day, and it may yet be the same. But it was those little showers coming in off the North Sea that really provided the spur for an awful lot of the action. Just a slightly greasy surface, catching out a few of the front runners, but certainly not those who came through to fill those top 3 positions, and they'll be celebrating up on the podium if they could be wrestled away from enjoying life down below with their pit crews. But I can see the podium ceremony is about to start, and I think we'll see 6 very, very happy faces up on those top 3 steps. Slightly longer faces for those that don't win races, but that's the Czech pairing. Came as if from nowhere, by far their best result of the season. They took a 4th place in the opening race at Silverstone, but for Jacob Knoll and Joseph Saruba, very, very happy indeed. Mick Motorsport really starting to take stride. Jack Bartholomew, and followed out by Stuart Middleton. Slightly longer faces. They thought they might have had that win in the bag. They worked hard for it, most notably Stuart Middleton. But 2nd place it was because a masterstroke, Sergei Afanasiev, but the driver who pulled off the move of the race, the driver thumping his fists into the air. A local hero, Danny Cruz. Victory for Rinaldi Motorsport. And now, of course, the Italian national anthem for the winning team. So as the strains the national anthem of Italy for the winning team, Rinaldi Motorsport, fade away. There seems to be a little bit of humour on the podium. Couldn't see what happened in front of Stuart Middleton there in 2nd place, but it's brought a smile to his face. But I think one of the drives of the race actually came from the crew in 3rd place, because Joseph Saruba built on the start by his teammate Jacob Knoll and really was flying in those final laps. So that's a young driver with a big future in front of him. Steps up from GT4 racing, and is another driver like Danny Cruz on the top step, who has moved up the power band and is absolutely grasping the moment. Trophies presented by Giorgio Sanna from Lamborghini. Pirelli Winners' Trophy as well by Ferruccio Pavesi. And then all the presenting officers, if you will, if they're sensible, they'll leave the podium. There is going to be a big champagne spray as soon as the official photos have been taken. Nobody has a bigger smile on the top step than Sergei Afanasiev. He has relished this weekend, and I think in his new teammate Danny Cruz, he's found a vital partner that was going to help him towards championship ambitions. Already, oh dear, the bottle that had been dropped has exploded. But that's the first of the 4 podium ceremonies. These are the overall top 3 here for the 2nd of the 2 Super Trofeo races at Zandvoort, and pleasure unbounded, most notably for Sergei Afanasiev, now championship leader, with his teammate Danny Cruz. So plenty of action for the Super Trofeo runners. That's it from us today. 3 more podium ceremonies to come for the junior classes, but right now, the award to the winners today, Sergei Afanasiev and Danny Cruz.